Three count commentaries is live. Today we got a pretty full show. We're gonna pull an opportunity to respect the Iron Sheik. We're gonna do a little bit of Iron Sheik, walking down memory lane when it comes to Iron Sheik. Then we got some other things to discuss. Nick Khan wants NXT to be a standalone brand. I'm going to do Dark Side of the Ring because I finally did watch it on Magnum TA. So we're going to talk about that too. May even talk about a little bit about Glow. There was a documentary from 2012. I guess I'll let you guys figure out whether you want to talk about Glow or not. And then I guess we'll talk about Billy Corgan and the NWA because there was a lot of stuff going on there. And then there was quite a bit with Lacey Evans and Sergeant Slaughter to discuss. There's a lot on tap. There's a lot on tap. I'm going to try to get this done in 2 hours. 2 hours. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on Iron Sheik since we've done a lot of videos on Iron Sheik already. There's been a DVD, which I did a review of. I posted it, reposted it rather. There's also the WWE biography on Iron Sheik. I reposted that as well. So we're going to do today. So we all know his history, where he was born and everything. So what we're going to do is probably going to play some clips of Iron Sheik talking about making people humble. And we're going to laugh because that's the new legacy of the Iron Sheik. Not many people remember his wrestling career, because he's been out of the ring for so long. A lot of people remember him now as a sort of a pop culture icon, a Twitter legend because of his insanity that other people post on Twitter, but is clearly said in the voice of the Iron Sheik. So we're going to respect the legend tonight, and then we're going to go into some other issues that might be of interest to you. Again, welcome to Three Card Commentaries. Darren Gordon Hill, thank you very much. Darren Gordon Hill is our resident musician on the channel. He does a lot of the music. You should give the guy a listen. He's pretty good at his thing. Even though I chop it up into like 9-second, 10-second bits, the music is generally pretty good. He's a pretty good DJ. I think we should all give him a round of applause for some of the intros that I was able to put together because of him. I appreciate it. Give a man flowers. He can be a bit of a troll sometimes, but he's very good at being a DJ. He's pretty cool. I just saw the Iron Sheik on Jerry Springer for the first time on Twitter. I literally saw it for the first time on Twitter. The other guy that was there, I think it was Johnny K9. Because they did the I'm cheating on you thing, and the new boyfriend was the Iron Sheik. But I think the guy who was the boyfriend initially was Johnny K9. I'm not entirely sure, though, because I don't know Johnny K9 that well. But when I saw the guy, I looked at him and said, that looks like the guy that was on Dark Side of the Ring. So it was probably him. But I had never seen that bit before. I didn't know that he was on Jerry Springer. So it was kind of cool to see Sheik on Jerry Springer. Special J with the applause. I appreciate that very much. I'm sure Darren is very appreciative of everybody, who enjoys the music that he puts together for the channel. I know I have been. I try to use everything he produces. Sometimes things fit better than others. I like drums and horns, so that pianos too. So I like drums, horns, and piano. So I try to use as much of that as possible. Meanwhile, let everybody else come in. Top Dog, what's up? I do, for most of you who have not seen the community post, the Q&A is next Thursday. It's the 15th. So get your questions. Some of, like, if you ever had, weird questions you want to ask, political questions, social questions, all kinds of stuff. We do it in the Q&A, and we probably just going to have, unless something big happens, we're probably just going to do the Q&A for the rest of the night. I'm going to try to knock out individual videos for big issues. In terms of everything else, I think that we're doing pretty good here. The channel stopped growing, and I know why. Um, YouTube throttled me, and I'm pretty sure I know why. A ton of my videos went to, and not that I even make any money off this channel because I don't. Uh, but a lot of my videos went into that yellow category. Even videos in which I don't talk about certain issues, I ends up in the yellow, which is I think it's partial monetization. I haven't even fully set up my AdSense because I've been trying to avoid paying taxes. So I'm trying to figure out how to make it work. But the channel, I noticed that the channel stopped growing the moment I monetized it, and then started making controversial subject matter. Then all of a sudden, my channel stopped growing again. I wonder why that would be. Uh, yes, the 3 count library. To be quite honest, I have been working my way through it. I've read about 4 or 5 wrestling books since I stopped doing the library last time. Um, Sometimes I still find the notes laying around because I did like I'll read a book, take notes, and then I'll put the notes to the side. Um, but then I may mix it up with a bunch of other notes that I have, which is a big problem. But I will be doing a 3 count library. We're going to do the Gorgeous George book. We're going to do the Blood and Fire, the book on the Sheik. We're going to do the book George Shire's Wrestling in Minnesota. I'm reading that book currently. I haven't finished it yet. We're probably going to do Rope Opera, the Vince Russo book. Uh, I should write those down while I'm talking. Yeah, here I should write those down because there's quite a few books that I've actually read that let's see, Rope Opera. I'll have to take notes through this, but I don't need to. Because Vince Russo, I mean, a lot of this stuff is stuff that he said before. Gorgeous George, I still got the notes for that. Blood and Fire for Brian Solomon. That's on the original Sheik. Um, what else did I say? Okay, the George Sire. Minneapolis wrestling history or something like that. It's the history of the AWA territory. Um, there's some other ones too that I've probably read or probably got sitting around here somewhere that I have to go through. But I have been reading wrestling books, and nobody's ever mentioned that we didn't do the library. Because I did say we was going to stop, but then I was going to load up some more, and then we are going to do. Oh yeah, there was this book by Jake Shannon called Catch as Catch Can Wrestling. I haven't even started it yet, let alone finished it. Um, I'm probably going to try to do that one, but that one is on like legit shooter wrestling. People might not be too interested in that. But I think I did the book on Andre the Giant already. I'm going through my PDFs to see which books I haven't done yet. Did I do Wrestling at the Chase? I think I did Wrestling at the Chase already. Sisterhood of the Squared Circle. I think we did that one already. The History of Women's Wrestling. Sex, Lies, and Headlocks. I haven't finished that book. It's one of those salacious gossip mag kind of books, but we may go through it. I'm gonna write it down. It's Mike Mooningham. All right, so we got about 5 or 6 books. Maybe we'll start the the library again in July. Start throwing some of those up. Um, I could actually knock a couple of those out over the weekend. Actually, that might actually do. It's a not bad way to spend a Sunday. Create a couple of videos and put them in the chamber for later this month or July. I want to do like 6 to 8, and then take another break, and then maybe find some more books. I'm trying to avoid WWE books. Like I don't want to do like Edge books or whatever. That's silly. Um, yeah, we'll figure out how to do it. Just remind me. I got a bunch of got some magazine stuff too, but we'll get around to it. All right, 10 minutes in. Let's finally talk about the Iron Sheik. So Iron Sheik, his Twitter tirades alone have been of note, but I think mostly his ranting on Howard Stern has been probably some of the best stuff that he's produced in history. So I want to start with a good clip, uh, and this is a good one. So this one is only 8 seconds, but it's full of profanity, and it is actually the Iron Sheik in his totality, I think, and what it means to be an Iron Sheik fan uh, in wrestling recently within the last few years.
Fuck you, punk! I'll fuck you! I'll fuck your sister, but not your wife, because I respect your wife.
No, let me tell you. You want to know what's funny? Iron Sheik arguing with a fake Macho Man. That's funny. That's funny. I love that. I'm telling you, bruh. I don't I don't get tired of that. I don't get tired of that one. This is Iron Sheik arguing with a fake Macho Man Randy Savage. This is pure entertainment.
Macho Man Randy Savage is on the phone. Fuck the Macho Man Randy Savage. Let him talk. Macho. Jabroni, yeah. The reason why your wife don't fuck you is because she wants a real man like the Macho Man Randy Savage. Fuck you! And fuck your wife! I have a tenant's card! I jump with your fucking! I have fucking your ass! I want to show you my fucking tenant's card! Do you get message? Fuck you, Randy Savage! I'm a Merce Robin is here! So I don't have to show you my tenant's card to fuck your fucking ass! You are not good, jabroni Jew! Son of a bitch! Fuck you, Randy Savage! All right. Well, Randy, the Sheik was unbuttoning his pants to show you his penis. Tenant's card! I want to show that son of a bitch! I can fuck your sister! I can fuck your mother! Your father! Your brother! All your fucking property with my tenant's card! He's riding the camel. All right, thank you, Macho Man. Thank you.
That's the kind of stuff that the 2000s was made of. Like, you can't get that kind of material now, man. I mean, the great thing is it's a double-edged sword because the Sheik was Iron Sheik was the kind of guy, man. He believed this stuff. Like, they never said that the guy was smart. Okay, like, this is the guy who thought passing a drug test was a good thing, and by passing I mean testing positive, was a good thing. He ain't the smartest guy in the room, and Howard Stern was known for making fun of people if he thought they were slow or something like that. So him, exploiting, let's put in quotations, the Iron Sheik is absolutely hilarious. This one is one of my favorites too. This is when he actually got to tell Hulk Hogan personally what he thought about him, and then Hulk Hogan kind of waving it off because this was fun.
Let's figure this out. Maybe we can help. Nah, he's just an idiot. He's always like this. He's gone. Yeah, and then he'll kiss your ass and hug you when he sees you. Right. He's just working the gimmick, same old thing. So this is an act? Yeah, he'll see me 2 weeks from now and give me a hug. Ashiki, you gotta kiss it in my ass because you're the shittiest wrestler I've ever worked with. You only had one main event in New York. After that, you were a jabroni doing jobs for everybody. You suck. Your curled up toes suck. And if you don't shut up, I'll stretch your ass. Well, I was a jabroni. I'll put you over. Brother, against my student and myself. Without me, Hulk Hogan can never be like Michael Jordan. Because all intelligence...
You're the biggest guy in wrestling there ever was, right? And is everyone jealous?
Before you, but still I respect you. But you don't respect me. I'll forgive you because I'm a bigot.
All right.
Oh, you're gonna forgive.
Thank you. I forgive you too, Sheik. I love you.
I love you too, man.
All right. Thank you.
All right, Iron Sheik versus Iron Sheik Jr. Let me find that because I didn't see that one. This is Iron Sheik is excellent. I love this guy, man. This guy is he's a classic human being. Just one of the funniest dudes ever. And the fact that he just goes off for pretty much no reason, is classic television. Okay, Iron Sheik versus Iron Sheik Jr. I'm guessing this is Artie Lang. Is that the one we're talking about here?
He's the one who got you into trouble. You will never talk to him again.
Oh, well, I saw him a couple of weeks ago. They invited me in Pennsylvania for the show.
Let me do something right now. This is going to blow your mind because I know there's a couple of people you want to tell off, and I've arranged for it today. On camera right now, and I think you could see it over there on that screen. Ultimate Warrior is on there right now. Oh, that's not Ultimate Warrior. That's, this guy. This guy I found. This is a wrestler. He was just signed to the WWE. He calls himself Iron Sheik Jr., and hold on, let me get this on here.
I can see it in his face that he's not happy about this.
The microphone, Stern.
This guy was just signed by the WWE for $2 million, and he's calling himself Iron Sheik.
Yes. No, I don't call myself Iron Sheik Jr. I call myself the real Iron Sheik because that jabroni you have sitting right there. No good faggot piece of shit, motherfucker jabroni piece of faggot shit. And if I ever see him, I'm going to fucking kill him, you cheap fucking son of a bitch. I'm the real Iron Sheik. I'm the real Iron Sheik. You are faggot. What?
You are a faggot.
You are faggot. I saw you. I want your ass. Never. Never. You
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. For starters, Artie Lang is doing an Iron Sheik impersonation, and it's good. It is very good. Second, Iron Sheik is so detached from reality that he believes this. He believes that WWF signed a wrestler, called him Iron Sheik Jr., and he believes it. Oh my God, bro. Oh man, he's such a pure guy, man. You can only get over on a guy like this if he's either he's working the gimmick or he's so pure of heart that he believes you. Anything that you say to him, he believes it. It doesn't work any other way, man. You can't pull the wool over anybody's eyes like this. I mean, he's looking at the video and this guy is adjusting the beard. It's such a joke, man. Like, and I'm not even talking about how edgy the humor is in terms of the language that they're using. It's over top. When was this? What year was this? I mean, before I started up again, what year was this? It was in 2007. Oh, wow. Just think about that. This was what, 15 years ago? Just think about the kind of comedy we could have had 15, 16 years ago.
You son of a bitch! You son of a bitch! You stole the camel clutch from my father, and you will die for it! You stole the camel clutch, sir!
Let me...
The funny thing is that there is an original Sheik, and of course, Edward Farhat, who says that the Iron Sheik stole everything from him, like the curled toe boots, the camel clutch, the name Sheik, pretty much everything. And so Artie Lang is sort of playing off of that history, which is making it even funnier for me because I'm like, I could see Artie Lang channeling Edward Farhat into this. He probably don't know who the hell that is, but the fact that he's calling himself Iron Sheik Jr., the real Iron Sheik, and that Sheik stole the camel clutch from his father and all this kind of stuff is right up my alley. This is right in the wrestling history book right here. This is really good stuff. What? What happened? Why the audio won't play? Why? Oh no, it froze. It keeps freezing. The audio. What's happening? Why is this happening? Oh, my Wi-Fi got turned off. That's no good. All right, there we go. Good, sir. Let me ask you something. Wait, that didn't fix it. All right, never mind. I guess we'll come back to it some other time. Well, I guess they called each other faggots enough. This is absolutely hilarious. How many times was he on this show? I don't, because it seemed like he was on this show so many times. You know, it was great. He's absolutely great. So AJ3 says the lack of wrestlers appearing on talk shows these days are so soft. Iron Sheik, Howard Stern show, one of my top 5 greatest wrestler and talk show interviews ever. Wish yours. It's hard because I really don't like watching wrestlers outside of the wrestling context. Like I really don't care that much about seeing wrestlers do like interviews. Macho Man on Arsenio Hall is pretty good though. Pretty much every time he's been on there, he was pretty good. He was on there a few times, and he was pretty good on there. So that was probably my favorite was when Randy Savage was on Arsenio Hall. They did sometimes when they do these shows, it's an angle, like Lawler being on Letterman or Hulk Hogan being on Jay Leno. It's an angle. They're shooting something. But when you just let wrestlers be who they are, it can be pretty entertaining. The crazy thing is how the Iron Sheik stayed the same these last 15, 16 years, and Howard Stern is the one who changed so much. You got the golden handcuffs on him. They gave him like $100 million or something like that, and now he's scared to say boo to a goose. He's scared of his own shadow. They got Joe Rogan the same way though. Can't even be mad. He got the bucks. Can't be mad at him. It is what it is on that front. But it's an interesting bit. I wish more wrestlers did TV shows. I wish more wrestlers did more. I think WWE is really kind of getting tight on the doing outside wrestling things because they can't control everything all the time. Sometimes they can if they're in some kind of partnership, but sometimes they can't. Like when that weird woman from what was it, NBC or something asked Bailey about a union or something crazy like that, or why WWE doesn't pay for their travel. It's like it's a legitimate question, but if you have to get into the business aspect of it, that takes longer than a soundbite in order to explain all that kind of stuff. And people don't got that kind of time. You sit there for a 15-minute puff piece and it turns into some 45-minute diatribe about the business and how, hey, it's better for you if you pay your own goddamn taxes and, pay for your own travel. You might pay less in taxes, But I don't know, man. I don't mind it. I like wrestlers getting the exposure, but people ask normie ass questions, or they have really cringe conversations. Like a lot of the late night comedy shows, like John Cena on who was he on? He was on TV with somebody recently. It was super cringe. I saw like a short of it. It was like 1 second of John Cena doing some cringe comedy with like Jimmy Fallon or something like that. I'm like, ugh, this sucks. In the past, people were a little bit more uh interested, and you knew what you were going to get when you went on the show. Like when Vince and Stephanie and all them went on to Howard Stern, and Howard Stern's asking Stephanie if she ever did anal or something like that. It's like that's so out of the box. Like that's not a question that anybody would ask them today. Vince talking about cheating on his wife was on Howard Stern, which is why people who are surprised that Vince was like you know paying broads to sleep with him. It's like, what are you talking about? He talked about this in Howard Stern in front of millions of people. Playboy read by millions of people. None of this stuff was a secret. Like none of that was a secret. Um, but it was a lot of it's a lot of little things here and there. But Iron Sheik is great. You could tell that Iron Sheik became a pop culture icon because both Rolling Stone and The Source did biographies. Well, they did obituaries on him. Here's the Rolling Stone obituary. It says it's from Joseph Hudak. The Iron Sheik, iconic pro wrestling heel, dead at 81. That's you could say dead at 81, like he died of a drug overdose or something like that. Well, I gotta have a subscription to read the whole thing. I will not be subscribing to Rolling Stone. I mean, I made that mistake before, believe it or not. The Source, it says Source Sports, wrestling legend Iron Sheik dead at 81. Shah B. Allah. So I'm not surprised that there's some kind of Muslim writer for The Source. I'm not surprised about that at all. It says they read the statement. Basically just did a little bit of a rundown how he's married to his wife for 47 years. It was a real nice piece, And this was something that you kind of forget how big Iron Sheik was because he wasn't The Rock or Stone Cold Steve Austin. And I want people to understand that. A lot of wrestlers get into pop culture without being The Rock, without being Steve Austin, without being Hulk Hogan. Iron Sheik is a name that I don't think he's wrestled a match in WWE, like a full match, since SummerSlam 92, maybe, or 91. Which one was it? SummerSlam 91, SummerSlam 92. Like he was in the gimmick battle royal, of course, but they put him in that and he won because he couldn't take a bump. So I don't even count that as a match. But this is a guy who hasn't wrestled in years. He was world champion for about 3 weeks, and he's a household name. Action figures, video games, the whole 9 yards. And I don't think they put the Iron Sheik in a video game in a long time either. I don't see why they just don't put most of I personally, I don't know how you get around it. Like when they choose to put certain legends in video games, I think that there obviously should be people who should be in every video game. Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, Triple H, should be Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, Randy Savage, Roddy Piper, Eddie Guerrero. They should be in every video game. The Road Warriors too. Demolition too should be in every video game. But then you just kind of rotate. Some of these other guys, you would rotate, put them in the video game. A guy like a Harley Race, just for kicks, man. Like it would be really fun for some of the younger fans to have like Harley Race or Terry Funk in a video game. It might be fun. They're not going to be flashy, over the top characters, but like old school grapplers. Do they still put like Boogeyman in the video games and stuff like that? I know he got a Legends contract. I don't know if it extends as far as him being put in video games, but I don't see why they don't utilize more legends in the video games. I don't know if they got a limit. Like it's the Hall of Fame almost. But I know they have to pay people for that stuff, and maybe that's the limit is that they want to, They own the rights to Eddie Guerrero. They own the rights to The Undertaker. I'm pretty sure they own Shawn Michaels' rights. They pretty much own the rights of most people. It's not going to cost them that much, I wouldn't guess. But you can dig into the bag a little bit. You know, why leave the door open for bootleg? Like when I was a kid, there was a I wouldn't even say I was a kid. I was a teenager. There was a Legends of Wrestling game, and it had a lot of the guys that WWE didn't have under some kind of contract, and a lot of them was in that game. And I think Hulk Hogan wasn't under contract at the time, so that's how I ended up with the game because Hulk Hogan was in it. Let me look it up, as a matter of fact, while I'm talking about it. But I know that they've created a lot of games like that since, you know, and it's kind of weird. Yeah, it was Hogan. I think I'm looking at right now. It was Hogan. It was Sid. I'm about to look at the roster. Let's go to the roster. Ah, Legends of Wrestling 1. They don't have a list of the people who was in the game. Let's see. Who was in the game? I just want to know who was in the game. That's all. Um, I can't see. They won't show me who was. Okay, it says Rob Van Dam, Bret Hart, Hulk Hogan, Terry Funk, Jimmy Snuka, Jerry Lawler, the Road Warriors, and Jimmy Hart. Yeah, so I definitely had this game because I know all of these people. You know, like this is what year was this? 2002. Yeah, I had this and I had the SmackDown game from that year. You know, like I know all of these people. Like you underestimate me, brother. I, I I know all of these folks. So yeah, WWE shouldn't. You can't do nothing about Owen Hart being in AEW game. I have no opinion on that. I already said my piece when it comes to Owen Hart. I don't know why he looks the way that he does, but that's just the graphics of the AEW game. I have no opinion on that either, because I don't game. So I look at it and I say they trying to mimic the old SmackDown games. That's what it looks like. Does everything with AEW have to be nostalgia? I don't know, but they definitely the Fight Forever game is trying to be like the old SmackDown versus Raw or SmackDown Here Comes the Pain, SmackDown versus Raw games, and it's clear that was the idea when they put the game together. I don't know why. I don't know why, but those games were great, and people still talk a lot about those games. Man, I love those games. I really do. So this Legends of Wrestling game was fun as hell to me too. A bunch of people that was on the eyes of WWE, and you would think the WWE would lock up more legends for these games, but I don't know why they choose not to do that and to let guys like even if it's just for nothing, but to give the guy a paycheck, even if nobody ever actually picks them or plays with them or anything like that, it might be fun, or you might be able to utilize that a little bit. Same thing with the ECW guys. I'm like the ECW guys not in the Hall of Fame and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of whack. But Iron Sheik, wrestling legend, without being, you know, The Rock or Stone Cold Steve Austin, is somebody people actually care about, and the outpouring of individuals who actually do care about him has been very impressive to me as a wrestling fan because I was always one of those people who were kind of like, there's pre WrestleMania guys and there's post WrestleMania guys, which you could really just say Hogan era. And most of the guys from the Hogan era are incredibly famous. The Iron Sheik being one of them, Junkyard Dog being another one. That never reached the heights of even like Ted DiBiase, you know. But you'll notice that a lot of the guys who were upper mid kind of guys, they they end up being household names because the business was hot when they were top guys. So Superfly Jimmy Snuka. Superfly Jimmy Snuka was a top guy during the Backlund years. Like he was on the decline during the Hogan years, mainly because he had already the situation with the young lady had already happened, and it had pretty much killed his a lot of his star power. So Superfly Jimmy Snuka wasn't even that big of a star in like '86 or whatever, you know. But everybody know who Superfly Jimmy Snuka is, you know. Don Morocco, similar, you know. Paul Orndorff, similar. Like they didn't get this. Like Superfly Snuka got a big outpouring when he died. You know, not like the Iron Sheik though, because Iron Sheik didn't kill anybody. So it was you know, they didn't prove that Snuka did it, but there really is no other answer to what happened. You know, um, so it's interesting that when you're a wrestler and we as fans, we seem to think that, you know, and I think the NBA fans do it too, where if you're not LeBron James or Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, you can't be a legend and be a household name and people care about you. Wrestling fans do underrate how famous wrestler was. Um, Sheik was in 2 WWE 2K games, but it was Conor Mustafa. That sucks. That sucks. Why would they put Colonel Mustafa in the game when the Iron Sheik is? What is he doing? Why? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Now, since we're talking about legends, let's talk about another legend. I'm not even going to read any articles about this. I just want to talk about the subject. Sergeant Slaughter and Lacey Evans. This is probably the most ridiculous shoot beef that's been going on. Like this beef is a shoot now, apparently. Sergeant Slaughter and his family. I think his daughter is, you know, pretty upset that Lacey Evans is using iconography from Sergeant Slaughter and using the Cobra Clutch without permission. Um, the problem with this whole thing, of course, is that Sergeant Slaughter, uh, hmm, of course, it's going to be a problem that he has taken military iconography without being in the military, you know, and that has been the response from the Lacey Evans camp is like you're not a real Marine. You can't tell me what I can and can't wear. And I respect that response. At the same time, though, I kind of feel what Sergeant Slaughter is saying. Sergeant Slaughter was a top guy, like big top guy. You know, like Sergeant Slaughter was, you know, he left WWE to do the G.I. Joe thing. He's a crossover guy. When he's gone, it's going to be another big reaction, you know? And I think he's earned the respect, you know? Now, usually I dig on Lacey Evans because she's really good at getting under people's skin and telling them essentially to fuck off, which is great. At the same time, I wish she would I think she should take her foot off the gas on the Sergeant Slaughter thing. Maybe it's because I love Sergeant Slaughter. I don't like the heel Sergeant Slaughter though. That sucked. You know, that whole Iraqi sympathizer thing they were doing, that sucked. And it wasn't like it sucked because he turned heel. It sucked because the performance wasn't good, you know. But he was a huge star in the territory that she's ripping off, you know. It's like we can do this a different way. You know, we could do the Lacey Evans military gimmick. We could do it a different way. I just don't know how to do it. But she's not winning. She's not winning any friends going after Sergeant Slaughter. I can tell you that. And that's actually going to be more detrimental to her career than she thinks. Because Sergeant Slaughter is still pretty close with the higher ups in WWE. He still does stuff for them. He does like recruiting, and he was on. Wasn't he on like Most Wanted Treasures last year? Like, I think he might even been on it this year too. I haven't watched it this year yet, but it's a little weird that this is the one that she's, you know, the heel she's trying to die on. You know, she should do the camel clutch and call it the Cobra Clutch. She should do both of them. You know. I don't know. I like the military gimmick for Lacey Evans. I also like the sassy Southern Belle gimmick. My thing is, you are kind of crossing over into his territory, and he's got the equity, even if he's not a legit Marine. He's got the equity with the wrestling base that Lacey Evans does not have because a lot of those people don't like her. And I saw that panty waist, let's call him that, Effie, basically went off on Lacey Evans saying that she was a no good conservative Republican. I laughed at that one. Like, you wrestling fishnets, bro. Nobody values your opinion. You know, you're Ned Flanders with a fetish. Nobody values your opinion. Nobody cares what you think. You know? But that respect takes you a long way, I think. And I think that the respect is a two-way street too. I think that Sergeant Slaughter and his daughter going out there basically attacking Lacey Evans, you know, you're begging for her to respond at that point. You know? That's the thing. Like, you're begging for her to respond. Like, this is Lacey Evans who went after Cardi B. That's when I was a fan right there. I became a fan as soon as she did that. When she decided she was going to troll Cardi B, I was like, yeah, I'm on the train, baby. You know, I'm on the train. She's not taking no prisoners. But now I'm kind of like, whoa, 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 whoa. You might be right that Sergeant Slaughter didn't really do this. At the same time, you're talking about Sergeant Slaughter, who is a big time star. Big time star. Not just world champion. I'm talking like big in several different promotions big. I'm talking dude was in G.I. Joe big. You know, like this guy, I'm talking when G.I. Joe was hot. He was in the cartoon. I'm not just saying like this, it was a, G.I. Joe used to be, it was inspirational to millions, especially millions of young boys. And Sergeant Slaughter was on there. And a lot of those boys will be my age now. It's different. She can't just go at Sergeant Slaughter. Like, she couldn't just go at Cardi B. But I'm not in that age group where I care about Cardi B. So you got to be a little bit more tactful. Effie is a independent wrestler. I guess you could say a top independent wrestler. I guess you could say he wrestles primarily for GCW, and he's, yeah, he's definitely a reprobate. He's definitely he's one of those. I keep saying I was going to find that Orange Crush magazine that I bought where Effie talks about how gay wrestling is. I don't know where it is because I got two of those things, and one of them is got an article or something from Effie where he's just going on and on about how wrestling is gay, and it's really hilarious. But I think it's probably in the other one that I got. I got one of them within arm's reach because I haven't finished reading it yet, and I've had it for almost a year. But the other one, I don't know where it is. It's probably in my basement. It shouldn't be in the basement because I didn't leave anything in the basement. But whatever. But he's a weirdo for sure. But he's a weirdo that has the attention of a lot of like hardcore wrestling fans. That's why I mentioned him because he's somebody they would know. He's somebody that has some level of control. GCW lets him host his own show every year. What was it, Effie's Big Gay Brunch or something like that? They let him host his own thing every year using the GCW brand. And he does over the top stuff every time. Dildos, butt rape, all kinds of ridiculous stuff. And I just gotta cringe at that crap, But when he came at Lacey Evans to kind of side with Sergeant Slaughter, I got him some real positive attention. And I'm like, okay, she could easily take out Effie. She could clear him easy enough. The issue here is that you don't want it to start affecting. I mean, she already got taken off TV. I mean, that wasn't had anything to do with her. It just has everything to do with Triple H doesn't really rock with Lacey Evans, so he hasn't been using her. And when he does, she's a loser. And when you are messing with the legends, um, that doesn't really do you any favors. Like, that stuff gets you a lot of heat, man. Like, people underestimate how much disrespecting legends gets you heat. Look at Mustafa Ali. Even when Hulk Hogan was on the outs, the stuff he was saying about Hulk Hogan is the reason why he was getting treated the way he got treated. You know? And I'm pretty sure he don't care. That's why he said it anyway. And it's good that he don't care. But they expect wrestling is big on that respect thing. That's why so many people get after AEW because their wrestlers are so disrespectful. They don't listen. They don't want to hear that they're doing anything wrong. They don't want to be taught anything. They don't want to be talked to. And so they get a lot of they rub people the wrong way. So when you have that in this business where people are agreeing to lay down for you or agreeing to put you over, respect is a big, big thing. You can get away with it in boxing or MMA because you might have to legitimately fight that person. But in wrestling, you're asking this person to, do things with you. So respect goes a long, long way. You can't force people to do things. And it's interesting how much heat you can get from guys who ain't been in the business in 15 years. Like a guy. I mean, it would be one thing if the guy was nobody, but if a guy's like moderately successful, you can't get away with just like disrespecting him. Like that's not gonna happen. Like this whole Ryback Booker T thing they got going on, Ryback can't win that situation. For him it was Leo Rush and Mark Henry was like is a top one for sure. It's a good way to get yourself booted. Or at least to have a cap put on what you can and can't do. That's a good way of limiting your own career, going off and trying to chew out the legends and everything. It's like, bruh, nope. Because you never know who is a fan. That's the first thing. Second thing, you never know when you're gonna need them. So Lacey should chill, really. Because Sarge has some fans in the WWF office. All right, like she should probably chill. But who knows? She might be going fishing anyway. So who knows? Lisa Ozzy. Wasn't Lacey supposed to work a major program with Charlotte or Becky? Then she got pregnant and was never able to. It was Charlotte. She was doing a thing with Ric Flair. She was doing the where she was wearing the robes and everything. I love that stuff. Rick hated it. Charlotte hated it. I don't even think Lacey liked it that much, but I liked it. I thought it fit Ric Flair's character perfectly. Again, Vince he's demented, but he's on point with his characters. Like when you look at how he presented Ric Flair when Ric Flair was in the WWF in 1991, how he presented Ric Flair then. That's the Ric. That's what Ric Flair is supposed to be. He's the playboy. Even in his old age, he would be the same way, right? So now Ric Flair is like 70. He would be a sugar daddy or something like that. It works as a gimmick. It works. Why people were so grossed out about it, I don't know. It's like it's fiction. We know that she clearly not having sex with Ric Flair. Like we know this. We're not stupid people, right? I don't think it's a work. I don't think the Sergeant Slaughter thing is a work at all. I thought it was a work too, but I don't think it's a work now. Apparently, it's a shoot now. And we'll see how true it is because it depends on how hard Lacey Evans is going to go. If she starts to take her foot off the gas, then we know she probably got talked to. But Ric Flair as a character, being a playboy, obsessed with girls and that kind of stuff, it fits his personality, and that's what WWE wanted for him. And they didn't want him with Charlotte anymore because they felt like, Charlotte didn't need him. They just wanted to keep them in the loop. But my thing is, they didn't even let the shit develop before people started getting mad. That's really what made it fun for me. You know, people was getting mad. It hadn't even gone anywhere yet. And then when she announced she was pregnant, I love that. Especially the illusion that Ric Flair was a daddy. That was great. Oh man, I like that. But that was the sassy Southern Belle version of Lacey Evans. Then she came back as the scrappy underdog, and people got mad at her because how dare she be from the trailer park and pull herself up by her bootstraps and go to the military and tell people not to get vaccinated and keep her kids away from GMO foods or whatever the hell. I mean, it's just ridiculous stuff with Lacey Evans, really. She needs to chill though. I love her, but she needs to chill. She be people. I think people are looking for reasons to get upset with her. By the way, let's talk about NXT real quick. So NXT, don't Tony. Hold on, I'm about to say Tony Khan. Nick Khan says we think NXT has the viability to be its own standalone brand. Brother, I don't know about that. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea. I think that you're. I think you. I think it was fine. Let's see what he's got to say though, because I want to. I actually have to go to the article because I can't read a snippet of this. Let's go to what he has to say about this whole thing. Let's see. Where is it? Where is it? He says initially NXT was on the WWE network, and then when the pandemic hit, USA NBCU needed content. We did not miss a week of production, so we went with Tuesday nights NXT on USA from 8 to 10. NXT ratings are also trending up, so that is going in the right direction. We think NXT has the viability to be its own standalone brand instead of it being a developmental system, a third brand, if you will, where you can see crossover from our stars on Raw and SmackDown to NXT while our young talent develops there. Once we get all of that situated, then we will look at other nights of the week to develop new content as well. I don't like this idea. I don't like this idea. I don't like it. I don't like it. This was the problem with NXT for 3 years. All right. From like 2019 to 2022. And the relaunch when Vince came in, pushed the button, and nuked NXT. It was necessary. All right. It was necessary because you look at everything that they was doing. It had peaked. When they started doing the super indie, right? They started doing the super indie mindset. We're going to bring in all these indie wrestlers, pay them crazy amounts of money. They're going to barely deliver when it comes to content and products. They can sell tickets, but nobody's really watching the show. It's considered a boring product. It was considered a dry product, but it was different from Raw and SmackDown. And that's really what people wanted at the time. And then AEW came along. Now you can't out AEW. So AEW starts, some of the guys who spent some time in NXT and they weren't exactly main roster material for whatever reason, or they're friends with the Young Bucks or something like that. They siphoned some of those people off. Now I'm surprised that the Garganos came back, because Candice LeRae is buddies with the Young Bucks. I'm surprised she didn't leave and Johnny Gargano left, which would have been great. But they're still in WWE. I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know why. Should have been a first sign that something was wrong. Is that a lot of their PWG friends decided to re-sign rather than go over there. But you can't turn NXT into that. There needs to be somewhere for the young talent to develop. And I know that a lot of people spend time knocking NXT about how everybody's green, people are not ready. I just listened to Meltzer and Alvarez talk about how terrible Trick Williams is and how terrible Ava Raine is. It's like these people are having some of their first matches ever. Trick Williams was what he debuted in NXT last year. Like, you're seeing the first matches this guy has ever had. Now, he only has like a year in the business as a character on TV. Now, I don't know how long he was training, but he debuted along, like, Carmelo Hayes was already on NXT when he was introduced. You know? You're seeing this guy for like the first time. Not the first time, but he's only a year in. You know? You're talking about Ava Raine. I don't know how long she's been in NXT, but she hasn't had any televised matches. You're talking about this was her second televised match. Her second one. Clearly, she's not going to be that great in her second televised match. Not everybody's a prodigy. Some people are like Danny Palmer or Sol Ruka or whatever, where they had no prior training and they're in the business less than a year and they rapidly pick things up like a Tiffany Stratton. There's going to be very few people like that. Most other people, they're going to get better as they go along. Carmella is one of them. I think Carmella is underrated. You know, she has gotten a lot better since she's come along. You know, Alexa Bliss is a lot better than she used to be. Liv Morgan is a lot better than she used to be. It takes a long time, you know, because the company doesn't have a lot of faith in them. So they don't get a lot of in-ring time. They don't get a lot of time to cut promos or stuff like that. They may get put on TV, but they don't get focused on because the company doesn't believe in them. So it takes longer for them to develop. But once they get to a certain point, it may take a while. And WWE is the one place where you don't have to do that in the dark. You have to do that in front of the entire audience, you know? And people judge you based off that. But at the same time, everybody has a before and an after, you know? And I think when people saw John Cena when he first came in, he was rough around the edges. He wasn't very good especially when he came right out of OVW. Hell, Jim Cornette was like he wasn't one of his top guys. None of these guys were. Batista wasn't. Brock wasn't. You know, all the guys who Lesnar. No, Lesnar wasn't either, and neither was Lashley. All the OVW guys that we love so much, they wouldn't have even cracked Jim Cornette's top five. His top five was like Nick Dinsmore, the Basham brothers. You know, it's like, that's how you know when you have two different visions of wrestling. What Vince is looking for and what the audience is looking for is somewhere in the middle between the two. Triple H needs to realize he was losing that game when he was pushing that NXT the way that he was pushing it. He was losing that game. Oh, they was having amazing matches. Yeah, they were. And then more people was watching, you know, Cody botch a weigh-in on Dynamite than watch NXT. And then you saw almost the entire IWC. While Finn Balor was still there, while Adam Cole was still there, turn on NXT and say, well, we're not even going to do reviews of it because nobody cares about this. The ratings are so low, there's no point worth talking about it. The show's boring. I don't enjoy it. I don't care. And then they pushed the button and blew it up. Now all of a sudden people are interested. What kind of people are going to populate this show now? It's like, it's almost like we were telling you from the beginning. The show was boring because it was the same people over and over and over and over again. Like a typical indie, you know? And then, you know, there was some off-putting there. There were some people who were super green, like, you know, Von Wagner. And then there was some of the characters were a little rough at first. You know, you had to get used to them. Storylines that hadn't quite developed yet. But now, NXT's trending upwards. People are getting used to the talent that is on the show. They have favorites that are on the show. You know, Tiffany Stratton's getting amazing reactions. Braun Breaker is too. Carmelo Hayes is coming along just fine. Trick Williams is one of the most over guys in NXT. You know, the Creed brothers. You can go on and on. Corey Jade. You can go on and on with talent in NXT that's actually coming along. And then we start this shit again. We start this. We think it should be a standalone brand. No, 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 no. No, it shouldn't be. You can bring in Mustafa Ali and Dana Brooke and Baron Corbin, and you can have them down there for a little while, but then get them out of there. You know, let the kids do their thing. Let them carry the show. I think they got to. You know, you gotta let the kids carry the show. A little revisionist history from Nick Khan too. He said that the pandemic is why they went to Tuesdays. That is not why they went to Tuesdays. Clearly, that wasn't the case. That wasn't the case at all. But he's full of shit on that one. We'll probably talk more about Nick Khan and his feelings on NXT during my NXT review on Wednesday, after I have a little bit more time to digest it and look at it and watch the show and see how their plan is going to develop in terms of what they want to do. All right. Baby Maharaja says Cornette is just biased to people he likes personally. Yeah, absolutely. He some of the stuff that he says makes literally no goddamn sense. Baby Maharaja says, I'm not convinced Gargano will get over on the main roster. I hope Cameron Grimes can. If they actually use the Cameron Grimes character, he might get over on the main roster. If they keep presenting him as, average guy who just happens to yell to the moon, that's not going to work. Nobody's going to like that. Nobody's going to care about that. I hope that they always tweaking NXT, man. They just won't leave it alone. Right now, I think they're doing great. Like they're bubbling at just the right time. They're starting to do more shows outside of the Performance Center and all this stuff. It's just it's going on smoothly. It's not perfect. It's not going to be. A lot of the wrestlers are not going to be as good now as they will be in a couple of years. But ultimately, I think they're doing good in terms of how they, produce some of this stuff. But you also have these people who they insist on cutting down young wrestlers before they really even get started, and then playing with kid gloves when it's somebody that they like. I mean, we already know that because of how these people, so it was weird. I'm him 24/7 says AEW was better than NXT at its time. NXT shouldn't be 2 hours. That hurt them. That was part of it. I think stretching it to 2 hours was part of it because it made the matches even longer. And it also disrupted the storytelling. Old NXT was only 1 hour. But they would build around that one match. I tell people all the time, one of my favorite NXT matches, regular NXT TV, without going TakeOver. Roderick Strong, Bobby Roode. They told that story for like a month. That, Roderick Strong comes from a trailer park. I think his mom stabbed his dad or something like that. His dad stabbed his mom or something like that. It was a real crazy story. He spent years on the independents, having trying to shake that off, all the mental strife and all this kind of stuff. For a minute, I was actually interested in Roderick Strong. And then they did a really good job of juxtaposing him to Robert Roode, who was a world champion in Impact and was, the current champion in NXT. And then he had the match. And Roderick Strong didn't win. That was kind of nutty. Thinking about it. That was a brash decision to really to go that route. AJ3 says, hey, weren't they also planning on doing What New Japan do with their young lions, some of the new recruits are scourging to develop characters like Ivy Niles and Reality of Wrestling. That's what I thought they were doing, but apparently it was just a one-off where Ivy Nile was requested specifically by Booker T to work with one of his top girls, Promise Braxton, and that was a one-off match. And they haven't done anything else. I know they were trying to do it several times before. They talked about it with MLW before MLW decided to sue them. That they wanted to try have a place where they can send their students to get more experience. There's plenty of places for you to send them so they can get more experience. There's plenty that are not a threat, that you can send them and they can get more experience. Reality of Wrestling is one of those places. Booker T runs an actual school, so that could help. There's somewhat smaller indie shows like House of Glory, Warrior Wrestling, where storylines are kind of what storyline really, they could just go in there and work matches if they wanted to, work with other people that they haven't got an opportunity to work with in WWE, just to be exposed to different things. There's plenty of companies out there. It's all about whether WWE is willing to let it happen or not. Like, I'm surprised they had, WXW and Progress and all those companies under contract to create product for the WWE network, and they weren't sending their talent over there. They was already in Europe. Like, like WXW still comes on the network. In fact, I watched the end of the 18 karat gold tournament. Like, you could look at this and say they already have some kind of working relationship with them. Just send some NXT talent over there. Why not? What's the worst that could happen? They live in Europe for a couple of months. They work, learn different language, get some experience. They're away from American television for a little while. They might come back with a different mindset, a little bit different approach to the business, get some seasoning. What really could it hurt? As long as it's not televised in the United States, who cares? There's plenty of places in Europe you could send them. There's some places in Japan you could send them. There's places in Mexico you could send them. There's places in Canada you could send them. There's places everywhere you could send them. If that's what they wanted to do. They have to want to do that. That's my thing. They have to want to do that. And I can tell you right now, that'd probably be a good usage of some of the talent who've been in NXT, but you're not going to call them up, but they've been down there for a while. Like somebody like Indy Hartwell before they called her up. Would have been great if they'd have said, you know what? We're not ready to call up Indy Hartwell yet, but she's taking up space in NXT. Let's send her to Europe. Send her to Germany for a little while. They do intergender wrestling over there. So she might have got the opportunity to do that kind of stuff. Make a little bit extra money. Still have her WWE contract when she comes back. And then maybe she'll come up with something different look, different character, different, promo or whatever. What was the harm? It's not like you was pushing her to main event WrestleMania and then she went over to Europe and got hurt. I'm talking about NXT. There's so many people down there who, again, like I was just saying a minute ago, you're seeing some of the very first matches they've ever had. And while they do have some of the best trainers in the world down there, everybody's getting the same trainers. It might work out better for you to have a different mentor. Look at Persia Parada. She got fired from WWE, right? She disappeared on the independents for a long time. Then she popped up, under her real name, Steph DeLander. And she's been hanging around with Matt Cardona for like the past few months. She's better than she used to be. She's more confident than she used to be. And Cardona is basically dragging her around everywhere he goes now. And he said that any conversation of him coming back to WWE involves her going with him. Like, he has adopted her. Like, we saw Jon Moxley adopt Shooter Umino, you know? Like, what's the worst could happen if you send a guy on an excursion? There's nothing that can happen. You know, maybe he gets introduced to some bad habits, you know, drugs, alcohol, kicking out of power drivers from the top rope or something silly like that. You know, maybe. Or, you know, like he gets into a locker room, he or she gets into a locker room with somebody who has a different vision that they could connect with. I would do it personally, you know, especially if especially if it's a person that you're kind of like, maybe I should cut them, but one last chance, we'll send him to Europe first, or send him to Japan for a little while, see if he comes back better after that. That's what I would do personally. It would be people that are kind of burnt out on that roster, haven't done much of anything. The storylines have stalled. We don't know what to do with you. All right, we'll just send you to Japan for 4 months or whatever. Go work Japan. Anywhere in Japan. Well, all Japan. I don't want you working in DDT. So all Japan or Noah or something like that. Just go do that shit for a little while. You know, learn something different, a different approach to the business. Maybe it'll click differently when you talk to different people. And if you come back and you still suck, then I gotta fire you. You know? But I don't see how that can hurt you at all. I just don't see how it hurts. That's just me. I would not be I would not be trying to make NXT its own standalone brand. To me, it's pointless. It needs to be the feeder system, because that's part of what makes NXT exciting. Is who's going to graduate from there and who's going to replace them. You know. Lord Cosmo, you got to see this Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, best one to date. I've seen Across the Spider-Verse already. I watched a bootleg though, so I didn't get a lot out of it, but I seen it. I'll say this: I didn't talk about it Sunday because I was really geeked about the American Gladiators. I will be talking about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse this Sunday, though. That's going to be I think it might end up being the main subject for Sunday. Because I'm going to end up having to watch it again, if we're being honest. Because I was kind of confused. Because once you start introducing time travel and extra dimensions and stuff into the story, things get kind of wonky. I'm going to watch it again before I give my opinion. But I've seen it before. I've seen it. I know why everybody's so excited. I got wrapped up in the excitement too. I'm not gonna lie to you. All right, what was next? Oh, Billy Corgan. Let's talk about the NWA. So the Crockett Cup was Sunday, and he did tons and tons of media leading up to the Crockett Cup. Now, I didn't watch the whole show. I watched probably part of the second night. Like, I watched Camille versus Natalia Markova, and I think I watched the Crockett Cup final. It's a tournament. It's a tag team tournament. It doesn't tell me much about the fate of the NWA. But in all of the lead up to it was a lot of talk about Tyrus, NWA, and politics. And a lot of this came from Billy Corgan having conversations in the media, because you know that your company is in trouble when you end up doing all the media, like Tony Khan does all the media for AEW. I question when your stars aren't doing any other talking, you know. But then when your stars have to correct you, that doesn't do you any good either. All of which happened when it comes to Billy Corgan. So Billy Corgan was defending his push of Tyrus. Now Tyrus, of course, sucks. Billy Corgan doesn't think so. I don't know why. But he has said, here's the setup. Tyrus is a Fox personality, frequently appearing on a number of shows, including Gutfeld as a commentator. There are many entertainment brands that will be very wary of associating with conservative politics and offending a portion of their audience, but Corgan has no such concern. This is from the New York Post. Corgan responds, I think if people bring those things into the realm of wrestling and it changes their willingness to watch, that's not a consumer that I am catering to. That is a based response. That's based right there. Okay. Billy Corgan saying, if you are not willing to watch our show because of the political opinions of the wrestler, I don't want you as a fan anyway. That's based. Now, why he's playing this role with Tyrus, I will never know. You know, Tyrus is not the guy to nuke your promotion over. Now, that being said, there was still a lot of people tweeting and talking about the Crockett Cup. So they weren't that mad about Tyrus being on Fox. Wrestling fans are like crack addicts. You know, they'll lick the floor if they have to, and NWA is literally licking the floor. I like watching NWA sometimes. I like watching different shit, you know? But when people was live tweeting the Crockett Cup, I was knowing. I knew they were doing that. I saw them doing it. Motherfucker. He continued, I grew up in a time of old school heat. Old school heat was the Polish guy told the German guy using World War II references that he was going to beat him up. Very politically incorrect. When Tyrus walks through the door, he brings the heat. If you're not going to watch him, then you're not a wrestling fan. I'm not booking a charity. I'm booking a professional wrestling company. Wow. Wow. I gotta say, I like his mindset. But my thing is, at this point, I think I've said this before, with that mindset, he should just load this company up with people. There's so many people who have been canceled that he should have on his roster. Austin Aries being one of them. I know Flip Gordon is on this roster. I know that. I heard that Flip Gordon was at Crockett Cup. Low Key is another one. There's a lot of people who are politically incorrect that should be on this roster with that mentality. My only bet would be he can't afford them. But if he's on some, I don't care about your political opinions, all about how good they are as a wrestler, then he definitely should have more people on this show. He definitely should have more people on this show. And all of them are better than Tyrus. All right. Tongue cancer is better than Tyrus. He says, if that was going to deny opportunities in the world to appear on a show or write for another magazine, so I believe that dissenting voices should have a seat at the table and let the American public decide which is more important on any particular argument. I don't believe in canceling out a voice because you're not comfortable with their perspective, and that's somehow supposed to translate into professional wrestling. I like this. This guy has great idea. You know, I'm for what he's talking about here. He says the product finally looks and feels the way I want it to. And people in the wrestling business are really starting to notice. Now, this part I'm not so sure about. Him saying that NWA finally looks and feels the way he wanted it to. This shit doesn't even feel like a super indie. It feels like something it feels lower level than GCW, actually. Like, it legit feels lower level than GCW. And GCW hosts Tournament of Death. Let's just go watch Japanese women bleed all over everybody. And NWA sometimes feels less than that. There's a reason Camille has been champion for 2 years, because nobody else signs for that fucking promotion. You know, nobody else is willing to stay to take the belt from her. There are so many people he should have on this roster. My only bet is he just don't got the money. And I know that he's done interviews saying that he hasn't taken any outside money. He's funding this whole thing himself. But that's ballsy. It's ballsy. He says this. He continued. It may not be as obvious to the Mark crowd that follows every little thing that happens on the internet, but in terms of wrestling culture, people are really starting to notice that we've gotten our act together, and the wrestling product is really strong. Where you really notice it is when you get pulled over by the Ricky Mortons of the world who say, this is how you draw money. What you're doing now leads to real success. This isn't internet hype. This is the old school way of how you actually draw money in the business. He's saying a lot. You're thinking what I'm thinking, Ike the Don. You're thinking what I'm thinking. Are you thinking what I think I'm thinking? Because I'm pretty sure I am. Why he hasn't brought in Tessa Blanchard, I have no idea. He should have went on ahead and did it. Look, man, how much further buried could Tessa be? You know? I don't get it. Might as well give her the job. Might as well give her the job. He did a different interview with the Toronto Sun talking about his background in wrestling and why he fell in love with it and why he's involved in the business. He's talking about being a fan of Dick the Bruiser. Dick the Bruiser rules, by the way. A lot of people don't know that, but he definitely rules. And I'm trying to find when he was talking about NWA again. Okay, he's talking about TNA, and he's talking about buying NWA. The interesting thing is, you see Nick Aldis. I think he tweeted out probably a couple of days before Crockett Cup that it was sad to see what he wanted for the NWA be destroyed or something like that. It was right after one of these articles. And you got to remember, this guy is the one funding this thing, you know, and he said he's been funding it out of his own pocket. So I don't see what Nick Aldis thought was going to happen. Now, here's his talking about the evolution of the NWA product. This is from the Toronto Sun. He says, I think it's always been the most obvious elephant in the room, which is to land some sort of television broadcast partner that will allow us to continue to grow and reach a bigger audience. We've been with YouTube. Then we went behind the paywall with Fight Network. We still work with Fight on the pay-per-view side, but we've seen, certainly even in the last 5 years, the incredible expanse of digital sports media. We have this impending deal coming, or it's already done, with the AEW, and of course WWE with Endeavor. So suddenly, my play in the market doesn't look so crazy. So we just continue to position ourselves for the right broadcast partner. Then he says, I've resisted taking any outside money. So it's 100% self-funded. So that way, if I do find the right partner, I don't have to bring in somebody else along and convince them it's a good idea. Then secondarily, I resisted taking C-level deals just to sort of puff my chest out and say, see, I'm with Bob's Barbecue Network. You know what I mean? Barb's Barbecue Network. Certainly get more viewers. I would think that you should sign with a network that caters to your audience. You know, maybe the Country Music Network or something like that. Do that still exist? Like the country music station? I think they've gotten kind of woke too. Maybe not. But you would think like something like an old TNN or something like that would be perfect for NWA. But they don't exist anymore. So I guess YouTube is just going to be where they're going to have to hit for a little while. So he's been doing quite a few interviews talking about NWA, and he says not everybody in wrestling understands what I've done and why I've done that with the NWA. The lazy take is, oh, it's a throwback thing. That's kind of cool, but they're not really doing anything important. And the point that I've made repeatedly for the last 5+ years is that I'm building a business that not only will last, but will compete at the highest levels. And I think that's really hard for people to understand. Yeah, he compared this to the Smashing Pumpkins and how he started it. He said, we've seen professional wrestling in recent times become a very niche driven business. Even at WWE at times has succumbed to the sort of will of the crowd. But as seen with the big movies and of course big combat events, whether it's WWE or UFC, it's when you hit those mainstream points where you reach across the aisle, so to speak, and get everybody involved that you do a bigger number. Wrestling's roots going back to the carnivals and its populist entertainment. It is not designed by and large to be for a small crowd that think it knows more than the people in the ring. It's meant to be popular entertainment where that goes on in the ring is astonishing and enthralling to ages everyone from 7 to 71. Again, I like what this guy thinks. This is an absolute true statement. Wrestling's roots is in carnivals. That is a fact. And it's by and large populist entertainment. That is also a fact. I've talked so much on this channel about that wrestling is very blue collar. So I get it. I think he has really wide eyes in terms of the success of the NWA and what he wants from it. But geez Louise, if he's putting his own money into it, he's not dragging any partners in on any of these deals. I can't say that he's screwing it up. I mean, he's doing things the way he wanted to do it. So Billy Corgan, I don't know what the success was of the Crockett Cup, but I did see it trending. That's what made me go check it out. And I ended up watching part of night 2. It was a tournament, so I didn't feel like I missed anything. And did I talk about Matt Hardy comparing Orange Cassidy to The Undertaker? No, I did not, because I think people blew that out of proportion. I'm going to defend Matt Hardy on this one. Okay? Here's what I'm going to defend Matt Hardy for. He was saying in respect to the level of trust that the promoter has in him. All right, that's what he was saying. He wasn't saying like Orange Cassidy has the aura or he's like our Undertaker. He's saying like Undertaker was trusted by Vince. He was Vince's go-to guy. Orange Cassidy is Tony Khan's go-to guy. That's what he was saying. That was his point. All right. Everything else beyond that was people who read the headline and ran with it. And we know that Tony Khan's a super fan of Orange Cassidy and dressed like him for Halloween and all that stuff. We know this already. So to me, it wasn't that big of a deal. And he considers Orange Cassidy sort of his go-to. I need to fill 20 minutes. Let's go to Orange. I don't see why he would feel that way, but he's just saying that that's Tony Khan's way of how he envisions Orange Cassidy as a performer. That he sees him as his go-to guy. His starting running back, I guess. You hand him the ball, boom, he just takes off with it. And the audience likes Orange Cassidy, which is sad. It's real sad. But it'll be okay. I didn't see a need to freak out. That was the thing. Like I saw it, thought it looked ridiculous, clicked it, thought Matt Hardy may have dementia or something like that, and then I read it and it was like, it's kind of absurd, but okay. I see in this context why he would say it that way. And then at that point, I was like, there's no point in talking about it. Nobody wants to hear the truth of the matter. They just want to hear people rant about it. Rant, rave, yell, scream. I'm not about to do that. Because the guy said something that was mildly silly, but he's in the locker room with these people, and that's what he thinks. I don't know. I haven't watched Dominion yet. Maybe I should. Should I watch Dominion? Should I even care about Dominion? I can bootleg it. I watched WCW Super Bowl 3 earlier tonight. The White Castle of Fear, Sting and Vader. That show was super dry. Ooh, that show was dry. That show was dry. You know, Too Cold Scorpio and Chris Benoit. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. I remember seeing that match as a kid and was amazed by it. Barry Windham and Great Muta. They certainly could do better. Can certainly do better. It was pretty much a one match show. Oh, Paul Orndorff with his atrophied arm and Mick Foley. I forget what kind of match it was, but I swear to God, I don't remember Mick Foley and Paul Orndorff ever having a match. And so seeing that was, I know I've seen this event before, so seeing it again was very interesting. What pay-per-view watch along will I do next? I'm questioning whether we should do a WCW or an old WWF pay-per-view. I did TNA. We did a TNA pay-per-view. We did an old New Generation era pay-per-view. Maybe WCW or maybe ECW. Maybe. I'll take it to it. Well, I'll toss something out there and we'll see what the folks land on. I picked the TNA pay-per-view at random. I watched those TNA pay-per-views when they pop up on YouTube, by the way. I watched those joints. And in my opinion of TNA really hasn't changed that much. It's good nostalgia now, though. You know, watching Sting and Kurt Angle from like 2007. Really good stuff. I do not want to watch Barely Legal. I'm not even gonna. I've seen that pay-per-view so much. I do not want to watch Barely Legal. I also do not want to watch old WWF stuff from the 2000s. Only if it's a single brand pay-per-view will I watch a Ruthless Aggression era pay-per-view. I'm going to make this hard because I'm not going to let us watch. We're not sitting here watching anything easy. We're going to sit here and watch WrestleMania 17. Like, oh, come on. Everybody and their mama have watched that 100 times over. Like, let's talk about No Mercy 2008 or something like that, you know, where nobody remembers anything that happened on that show, and you're simply digging in the crates, and you come across this stupid pay-per-view that's going to be probably boring. That's why nobody talks about it. But there's likely to be some funny stuff on there or some over-the-top stuff on there that actually might be worth talking about. And that's why I say I like the Marky D123 because he does like the wacky TNA stuff. Nobody talks about TNA the way he talks about it. There are no TNA historians, you know. There's historians for pretty much every other wrestling company, but there's none for TNA. So you have a few people who do TNA videos. It's fun, you know. So only if we watch like really gutter level pay-per-views. Single brand SmackDown pay-per-views, single brand Raw pay-per-views from the Ruthless Aggression era will I watch them shits. You know. A lot of those things, even like the WrestleManias and stuff I haven't seen in a while. But like the single brand events, I some of them like some of the Raw ones I've never seen, you know? And I don't go back to that era and rewatch a lot of that stuff either. I don't remember SummerSlam 2001, if we're being honest. I don't remember SummerSlam 2000, if we're being honest. I came back just before SummerSlam 2005. So from like SummerSlam 99, I don't remember much of that. I do remember it, but I don't remember a lot of it. 2000, don't remember a lot of that. 2001, 2002 was excellent. And I went back and watched that because I ended up getting a DVD on that one. But a lot of the single brand pay-per-views, a lot of the pay-per-views around that Invasion era, I'd never seen most of that stuff. Especially like the Raw and SmackDown. That stuff, I can't go back and watch that stuff. That stuff would eat up too much of my time, you know? if I'm going to go way in the Wayback Machine, it's got to be for fun, not to try to play catch up with stupid events that nobody remembers. But I am interested in doing some shit where if we're going to do the event, it's going to be super funny or it's going to be wacky. You know, it's like, why are, like, I like the idea of I'm going to do a wrestling channel and people are going to be like, why the fuck is he talking about Armageddon 2006? Like, what is on this show that's worth talking about? You know, like that's where my brain is sometimes because everybody talks about the same fucking shows over and over again. You know, we hear about the same pay-per-views over and over and over and over and over. It's like they produced 24 pay-per-views at one point in time because Raw and SmackDown was running pay-per-views every couple of weeks. None of that stuff is worth talking about. We just talk about WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Rumble. WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Rumble, and then the occasional Backlash or the occasional Armageddon or the occasional Survivor Series. So I'm like, if we're gonna do something, let's jump into June 2004, like, or July 2002 or something like that. Who knows what the hell is on those shows? I probably have not seen or don't remember. You know, so we're gonna do a watch along. It's gonna be another company like a WCW or an ECW or something in the vault of WWE. You know, and I'm talking probably not back in the 80s. Probably won't go back. I won't force y'all to go back as far as I would go back. You know, I'll go back and watch like Wrestling Challenge from 1986. You know, yeah, Armageddon 2006 is when Jerry Rocky broke his nose. That's where they had to apologize for November to Dismember. So they made that silly ladder match in which Joey Mercury broke his nose. That was a crazy event. Armageddon 2005 is what I was thinking of, though. That was the Booker T, JBL, Undertaker, Eddie Guerrero four-way match, which I think is probably one of the few times Undertaker and Eddie Guerrero were actually in the ring together. And I bought that pay-per-view because of that match, because I had never seen Undertaker and Eddie Guerrero in the same ring. So I don't know why I collected it like a card. Like I've never seen this before. For starters, because it happened while I wasn't watching it. And then I was like, Undertaker is wrestling Eddie Guerrero. Like it's not a one-on-one match, but I've never seen them do anything. I've never seen them do a tag match together or anything. I just want to see if they got chemistry. And so I bought that whole event just for that. It was cheap, but I also have never seen the Undertaker Booker T matches, and I know that they happened. So maybe if we do a WWE pay-per-view, we could do the one where Undertaker wrestled Booker T. Because I like both of those guys, and I've never seen that match. And I know it happened. I think it's Judgment Day. Is it Judgment Day 2003, 2004? One of the two. And I think I want to watch that. Vengeance 2005, that was Batista, Triple H, Hell in a Cell, right? Or was that Backlash 2005? No, Backlash was the rematch. Vengeance, I believe, is the Hell in a Cell match between Batista and Triple H, which is one of my favorite Hell in a Cell matches, by the way. I don't remember anything else on that card though. I eject 99% of all wrestling from my memory. I'm not even gonna hold you up. So if it's something in my memory and it's from like the 2000 era, I probably would rock with it. Judgment Day 2004 and No Mercy 2001. I'm more likely to watch Judgment Day 2004 because it's like it's a SmackDown only pay-per-view, and it's something I've never seen. No Mercy 2001, I probably have seen that, but that would be American Badass Undertaker versus Booker T, right? I was thinking more Dead Man Undertaker versus Booker T. Armageddon 2004 is the Fatal 4-Way. Okay, I knew it was in there somewhere. So Armageddon 2005, was that JBL Big Show? No, that was No Way Out 2005, right? Right before WrestleMania, where they had the barbed wire steel cage match, which I've never seen, by the way. I've never seen that. I never watched that event. I almost never watched those pay-per-views before WrestleMania anyway. Outside of the Attitude Era and the Ruthless Aggression, not the Ruthless Aggression era, the Attitude Era and the New Generation era. Like, very few of those February pay-per-views really jumped out at me as anything that I felt like we needed to watch. I did watch the Undertaker Kurt Angle No Way Out match though. I got that pay-per-view. I wish that match had happened at WrestleMania. I really do. I really wished Undertaker had wrestled Kurt Angle at WrestleMania. God, I wish that match had happened at WrestleMania. It sucks that he went from having this absolute classic with Kurt Angle to wrestling Mark Henry. And it's all because Vince didn't want to beat Kurt Angle, nor did he want Undertaker to lose to Kurt Angle at WrestleMania. Like, that's crazy. Like, we couldn't think our way out of that bag. We couldn't have Undertaker win the title and then lose it the next night on SmackDown or something like that. Top Dog, what about some Bret Hart matches? Watch along. That's possible. We could run that. That would be fun. I could go find some Bret Hart matches we could watch for sure. A shorter watch along, maybe about 20, 25 minutes. Okay, we could do that. It's going to be an obscure Bret Hart match. It's not going to be none of the famous ones. I'm telling you, y'all be acting for watch-alongs. When I pick up wrestling shows to just watch, it's usually obscure shit. Like, I don't like watching shit that everybody has sat around and watched, like WrestleMania stuff all day. You know, I watch obscure events. When I go through the network, like I watched Money in the Bank from last year, yesterday. I just had it running because I didn't remember shit from that show outside of Austin Theory winning. I didn't remember anything. That's why when I brought up earlier about how Carmella is better than I thought, that's because I was watching her yesterday, and I was like, hey, she's not awful. She ain't great, but she's serviceable. She knows what she's doing. You know, and then when you take it out of I know Bianca and Carmella had 100 matches at the time. You take it out of that context and just go back and watch it as a standalone match, it was actually not that bad. We're gonna talk about Dark Side of the Ring to close this thing up because some people would be smart and notice I didn't do a video on Dark Side of the Ring this week. That's because it was on Magnum TA and it was basically just his life story and it was pretty straightforward and nothing really jumped out at me as being super important that they missed outside of they mentioned him marrying Tully Blanchard's wife. They didn't mention Tessa at all and raising, you didn't mention he raised Tully Blanchard's daughter. They talked about some of his classic feuds in Jim Crockett Promotions. They didn't mention his classic feuds in Mid-South. They went in depth about his car accident, how he ended up losing his first wife, who seemed to really love him. Like, she seemed like the sweetest woman in the world. It's like he was cheating on her during the entire time he was a top guy, which was to be expected, and she kind of accepted that. But even after he was injured, he continued to cheat somehow. Like, how is this guy can barely walk and he can still cheat? Like, how is this possible? But I think it might have been the collection of things, like all the people he cheated on her with, but now she's got to take care of him, and all this kind of stuff. It was a very interesting thing too with this whole Nikita Koloff being slid into his spot as being the top babyface. I don't know why that decision was made, but I cried for Magnum TA. Really? I don't know, man. I bet you there was probably some other guys that was like, "What? Why not me?" Like why can't I get the ball on that one? But it was a pretty straightforward Dark Side of the Ring episode. There wasn't really all that much darkness in it outside of his injury. The injury was the dark part, and it changed his life forever. Outside of that, no talk of drugs and alcohol or, him getting into any fights backstage or anything like that. It was just that everybody loved Magnum TA and then he got into a car accident. That's pretty much the story. Everybody loved him. Dusty loved him. Flair loved him. Everybody, all the girls were taking their panties off and throwing them at Magnum TA. Then he wrapped his, he hydroplaned off a mountain or whatever and almost died. And the end. Like, wow, that's tough. That's truly tough. I didn't watch all the Tales of the Territories either because it's hard for me to keep track of these shows. So I'm going back and I'm going to start watching those again. I watched part of the Portland episode because I get in these moods when I want to see wrestling stuff, but I want to watch something outside the box. Since I didn't know a lot about Portland, I was like, oh shit, they did an episode of Tales from the Territories on Portland. I just watched that. And I was like, I kind of want to watch the entire series now, but I also kind of don't because I don't really like the format. The format is like Legends of Wrestling where they're sitting around a circle and people who used to work in the territory are telling stories, which is fine, especially when the footage is playing. But I'm kind of, I don't know. And maybe it's because when Tales of the Territories was on and I was watching it, they was doing Memphis, and I knew all the stuff they were talking about already. And I was like, oh, they're going to spend an entire episode talking about Andy Kaufman. Great. We got to talk about Andy Kaufman again. And that's kind of how I get when it comes to wrestling. We can talk about the same things over and over again. Like, no. There's so many stories that have not been told. Like Buddy Rose marrying Matt Bourne's sister. That rules, bro. Okay? It's a great story, man. It's a great story, man. That's some good shit. When they're in the locker room and this guy's trying to kill his man for marrying his sister for a shoot, oh, that rules. That's great. That's good shit. That's the kind of stuff we need to be talking about. I'm all about that. So I'll watch Tales from the Territories probably over the weekend. I'll probably end up watching all of that. I'm probably gonna binge them shits. But Dark Side of the Ring was pretty straightforward when it comes to Magnum TA. Everybody loved him. He was good at his job. Not stupendous on promo, but strong babyface promo. Passion, had intensity, had fire. He's exactly what Jim Crockett Promotions needed in terms of babyface, young guy. He had no plans to do it long term. He wanted to get out of the business young. That kind of jumped out at me too. That he wanted to retire before he was 30. I'm like, you're in the wrong business for that. I can tell you that much. Even if you were the world champion, it's probably you retiring at 30 probably was not going to happen. I mean, fuck, Terry Funk was world champion. Harley Race was world champion. None of those guys retired at 30. And they made a grip. I'm pretty sure Magnum TA was not going to make enough money as world champion to retire at 30. Not likely. All right. But I do think that if Magnum TA had happened, you probably wouldn't have gotten Sting. I think they went so hard with Sting because they missed the boat on Magnum. But I don't think he would have outdrew Hulk Hogan or anything like that. I mean, Hogan was bigger, had a bigger fan base. Hulkamaniacs were running wild. The only thing you remember about Magnum TA really is that he was in a car accident. If he had never had in that car accident, he would have been a top star in the territory era. He would have been pretty big because he was pretty big anyway. But I don't think he would have crossed over and made Vince upset. Nor do I think that Vince would have stolen him away. I don't think so. I think he was pretty loyal to Dusty, who had pretty much booked him everywhere from Florida to he helped him significantly when he was in Mid-South because Dusty wasn't there when he was in Mid-South, but he was calling Dusty on the phone. He talked about it in the documentary how he was lost on what to do in Mid-South, and he ended up calling Dusty. So Dusty was holding his hand his entire career. So he probably wouldn't have went to WWF anyway. Ike Dedon, what are the worst wrestling podcasts? I don't know. because I don't really listen to too many of them. Most of the ones that I did listen to were pretty good, and then something happened to make me not listen to them anymore. For instance, Cheap Heat, Rosenberg, Masked Man, and Good Guy Greg. Um, I'm sorry, it's That Guy Greg. I liked that show for a long time. Then the Masked Man left the show, and it was just Peter Rosenberg and Stat Guy Greg. And I was like, I don't need Rosenberg. Like, I needed Shoemaker there as a straight man for all the other stuff that they were doing. Sometimes you have like a trio or a good team. Breaking that team, even just one person leaving, kind of. But I liked Cheap Heat for a while, and then I got rid of that. I stopped listening to it. I like Ring Rust Radio. And then Donnie became an obsessive AEW fan. He became incredibly annoying. And so I stopped listening to it. It wasn't even that he was a super fan of AEW. It's that he became annoying. Every subject, they couldn't get 2 seconds without turning into an AEW WWE argument. It got super annoying. I don't care if it was a bit. It was just annoying. It made the show unlistenable for a while. I haven't listened to it in over a year. So I don't know. They probably fixed it. It's probably not as bad as it used to be. But I know about 220, 221, it was still getting pretty bad. And it was really the shits in 2019 too. So the even if it was just faux tribalism, I couldn't take it anymore. And that was my favorite wrestling podcast when it comes to was Ring Rust Radio. It was incredibly fun. They have it. That's what I modeled my show after. In terms of having fun watching this shit. And they don't always take the piss out of it. They take the piss out of it sometimes. But mostly it's 3 guys having fun watching the product. And then they dabble into other things. They don't spend a significant amount of time on like football or anything like that. But they have a lot of engaging things and stuff like that. But it became almost unlistenable. A lot of the other kinds of podcasts, I don't really listen to them. Like I don't listen to Kurt Angle or Ted DiBiase or anything like that. I listen to things for subject matter. So if like when Eric Bischoff did the video, the podcast on wrestling, analyzing wrestling fans from a psychological perspective, that was interesting to me. So I listened to it. But I don't listen to his show every week. What am I going to listen to him talk about? Nitro and Super Brawl 6 or some shit. Why do I care about that? I don't care that much about that show. Same thing with Bruce Pritchard. Like I liked Bruce Pritchard's show before he went back to WWF. And then it's all talking about old shows that I don't really care that much about. No subjects that I really care about. Like Steroid Trial or Ringing Boy Scandal or something like that, sure. But he's just going to talk about this random Survivor Series 2006. I don't know, man. I mean, the only thing that's going to get out of that is why did Vince fire this low-level ECW on TV wrestler? Who cares, bro? Like Vince fired Paul Burchill or some shit like that, and everybody's like, why? I was like, once he wasn't a pirate anymore, bro, it was like hasta la vista, go fishing. I like Paul Burchill, but I like Pirate Paul, bro. Like if you're not a pirate, I don't know. I don't know what we can do with you. So I really watch a lot of podcasts based off the content. WrestleNomics, I don't listen to their podcast, but I did listen to their podcast when they talked to the guy who knew a lot about WWE's purchase and digitizing of the wrestling libraries. I had to listen to that. That's something that's incredibly interesting to me. I don't just go digging in the crates for content though. Like, which I know some people would say is easy money. You just go and click this video and then respond to it. It's like, that's low hanging fruit as far as I'm concerned. If I can't actually get anything out of it, I can't give you anything out of it. So I don't bother with just listening to wrestling podcasts all day. As a matter of fact, I don't listen to wrestling podcasts almost at all. You know, so I spend my time listening to like um, different kinds of stuff. Like I may listen to some political stuff, some historical stuff. If a wrestling podcast pops up that has something interesting in it, I'll listen to that. Um, I started listening off and on to Ice from American Gladiators, listening to her podcast that she had conversations with mostly the female gladiators. You know, it was just talking about their experiences on the show, which I found interesting because I didn't know that podcast existed until that. Like, as soon as that 30 for 30 happened, I started getting deluged with American Gladiators content. Like it was like shorts of American Gladiators because their YouTube channel is constantly showing episodes. And then like from that to her podcast popped up. And I was like, yay, I didn't know all this stuff existed. Like I didn't know YouTube had full episodes of American Gladiators on YouTube. I didn't know that. So I watch that stuff now. So I don't really watch wrestling, listen to wrestling podcasts. Cornette, I don't listen to his entire show. I just look at the clips on YouTube. Conan, same thing. Disco, same thing. Conan and Disco. Vince Russo, same thing. If they have an interesting subject, I'll click a video. Outside of that, I don't really listen to them. So I can't give you what's the worst. I also can't give you what's the best. Because some of the guys that you really want to listen to when they talks about the business, they talk about everything except wrestling. Like Kevin Nash, good mind for the business, has almost no interest in wrestling. Like he talks about pop culture and a bunch of other stuff. They don't sit around talking about, the White Castle of Fear or anything like that. Why? Raven. When Raven's podcast started, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be great. It's going to be like the ROH shoot interviews that he did that I love so much. Then you listen to him, it's like him talking about comedy and him talking about movies. And you're like, oh, it's not about wrestling at all, bro. I've been fooled. Like, we want to hear wrestlers talk about wrestling. Like, that's the audience. But they also get into the mode of, as a podcast, I want to talk about other things. You're a content creator. You want to create content. And God bless them. I'm not against it, but I'm not going to listen to it either. And I don't know who listens to that stuff. I know Francine did a podcast recently where she talked about Chris and Tammy, the episode of Dark Side of the Ring, and that ended up getting Tammy's boyfriend upset, and he threatened to expose that she was having sex with all these guys in the business and all this kind of stuff. And I don't see how that's an expose. I just don't see how it's an expose, really. Now, it is all Gossip Girl shit anyway, because a couple of dudes have said they banged Francine. But she's married now with kids, and if she did bang them, that was in '98. It was 25 years ago, bro. It's not doing you any good now. It's like it's not helping you pay the bills today. But it sucks. But I can't give you any insight into wrestling podcasts. I really can't. That will require me spending more time than I usually do listening to that stuff. All right. Thank you guys for your time. I'll talk to you guys later, man. See you guys next week on the Q&A. Sunday, we're going to talk about Across the Spider-Verse. I'm going to have to watch it again. And I may watch another movie because I'm really considering doing another night of maybe focusing on one person, like Jackie Chan or Jet Li, or I would say Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he keeps saying shit that make me shake my head and not want to talk about him. He's not based. Jackie Chan ain't based either, though. So if we're being honest, So maybe Jet Li. Maybe Jet Li. The Flash. Am I going to watch that? Probably. I think I'm not really a boycott guy, but to see that homeboy, lost every movie role that he was a part of for an accusation, and then this fucking guy kidnapped a kid, was on the run, was attacking people, and he still got his movie released. The only punishment is that he can't promote the movie. So he's not doing any of the interviews for the movie. He can't talk about the movie, but he can be in it and make millions of dollars making the movie. And if they do a sequel, he's going to be in that too. To me, that rubbed me the wrong way. I can't stand by that one. That's aside all the non-binary weirdo stuff that he did. Just the fact that he was a part of so much crap and there was no punishment for it. There was no accountability whatsoever. And plus, I haven't heard anything about it. I haven't heard that it was good. I haven't heard that it was bad. I just ain't heard nothing about it. So I feel like if I do watch it, it'd probably be a boring day where I'm just kind of like, oh, what the hell, and throw it on there. That's what happened with um, Ant-Man 3. I had no interest in watching it, and then one day I was super bored, and I saw it, and I just clicked it and let it run, and was like, oh my god, this is worse than I could possibly imagine. This is awful. It's an awful movie. But I may watch another movie, or we may finally get into RoboCop, which might be fun. You know, I think we're gonna end up doing RoboCop probably soon. Maybe next week. Not this Sunday, but maybe the next Sunday. Because I've seen RoboCop 1, 2, and 3, but I haven't seen the TV show and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. WG Phil said there won't be a sequel due to James Gunn rebooting the franchise. Although Gunn is pretty sus himself because his friends got convicted. James Gunn is a weirdo, absolutely. The original RoboCop is one of the best movies of all time. I agree. It's fantastic. And Mongo likes robots. Like I love cyborgs. Okay, like I'm in it for the cyborgs. All right. Eventually, we're gonna get around to Universal Soldier, and I've been telling people all the time, Universal Soldier rules too. I like Jean-Claude Van Damme. I like Time Cop. I like Bloodsport. I don't like every Jean-Claude Van Damme is not in my echelon like Arnold, like Sly, like Bruce Willis. He's not up there with them. But he's not up there with Jackie Chan or Jet Li. He's not in that sphere. But I like some of his stuff. You know, he's on it. He's not Steven Seagal tier either. I hate Steven Seagal. I will not watch a Steven Seagal movie. I can't. It just feels like his facial expression doesn't change from scene to scene. He literally has the same face. I think he would be a good pro wrestler though. I think a pro wrestler with like a Steven Seagal gimmick may actually get over in a major way. That might actually rule. James Gunn is writing Superman, right? Probably won't see that either because I don't think that's going to work out. Jason Statham. What about him? You seen any of his movies? Yes, I've seen quite a few Jason Statham movies. I did like the Transporter series. I did not. I think I saw one of the Crank movies. One of them. I've seen a couple. Snatch is one of my favorite movies. They got Jason Statham in it. I've seen some other ones. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but I've seen some other ones. He's pretty good. He's another one of those. It's crazy because he's the perfect installation of what Cesaro is. Very competent in what he does. Pretty successful at what he does. not really a superstar, just kind of a guy that Death Race, exactly. Thank you, because I knew it was something that was on the tip of my goddamn tongue that he was in that I really really liked. That I couldn't put my finger on it. Um, Death Race, the first Death Race, very good. Speaking of which, when Twisted Metal comes out, we will be talking about that. I saw Samoa Joe in a diaper. Wasn't one of my prouder moments. It was like one of the snippets from Sweet Tooth of the of Twisted Metal from the I think it was a trailer or on set or something like that. Freedom Riders is one of those movies that if you like civil rights dramas and all this kind of stuff, you'll probably like it. I think I grew out of watching those kind of movies. Those are the Netflix and chill movies where you put those on, you just end up having sex in the middle of it. You put this movie on, but you have no intention of actually watching it. That's what. There's so many movies like that now. I got lucky because I like a lot of the young lady I've spent a lot of time with. She like action movies, so half the time we might actually be interested in the movie. And then you put on something stupid, and it just turns into sex. This Netflix and chill movies that's what Freedom Riders is. It's like, this boring. Either we're gonna fuck or this is boring, and we're both gonna go to sleep. Am I thinking of Freedom Riders? Or I'm thinking of something else. Is that the movie where the fat boy had a crush on the girl and what movie was that? And they were like poets or something. It was all about black kids achieving. Somebody knows. But I think that was the movie where I was kind of like rolling my eyes the whole time. I like watching cringe movies too sometimes though. My brother he watches Casino one more fucking time. That Negro watches Casino. He only watches it when it's on TV. Like this is the worst thing possible. Like you got it on DVD. But he chooses to watch it on TV it's almost obsession. Like he watches it every time it comes on. I'm like, we could act out Casino by this point, you know. Freedom Rides with Hilary Swank. Then what movie was I describing? Because I probably have seen it and don't remember it. It sounds like one of those We Shall Overcome movies, and I think I retired from watching them shits, man. I've seen enough of those things, man. Enough of the We Shall Overcome movies. But before I hang this thing up, I do want to know what movie that was. I was describing, so I won't have it stuck in my head all night. What the hell movie was that? I don't want to look it up. Freedom Riders was that book of a teacher getting into the inner city made them write journals. Yeah, I don't remember it. All right, we're gonna call it a night. I don't know. I'll Google Freedom Riders to see. Let's Google Freedom Riders to see if it's the same movie that I'm thinking of. Which probably would have been an easier way to deal with this instead of and on. Freedom Riders. Let's see. Poignant. When somebody says that your movie is poignant, I don't know. Let's see. Describe it again. It was a movie in which it was some kids in it, and the kids were part of some kind of program, and like the fat boy had a crush on the light skinned girl. And no, I've never seen this Freedom Riders thing because I'm looking at it. It's about the Holocaust and the riots, and no, I ain't never seen this. No, I ain't never seen this. Let me look at the characters. No, I've never seen this. I've never seen that movie. Then what movie am I talking about? That's the question. I'm never going to be able to. I'm never going to find this fucking movie. I think I would know it if I saw like the poster or something. The Great Debaters, is that it? I think that might be the movie that I'm talking about. I think that might be it because Denzel Washington was in it, and I definitely watch movies with Denzel Washington in it. Um, hmm. Let's see. Is this it? I think it might be. I think it might be The Great Debaters. Yep, it is The Great Debaters. I'm looking at the characters and it's exactly the thing I was thinking of. Got the light skinned girl, you got the kind of chubby boy, he's got a crush on her, but I think she's screwing around with some other guy and it's affecting his ability to do his part of yeah. It was The Great Debaters. That's the movie I was thinking of. I knew I was gonna spend the rest of my night being tripping about that if I hadn't figured it out. It's The Great Debaters. All right, y'all. I am probably about to go to bed. We'll see. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out. Enjoy the rest of y'all weekend.